even know if they've wrapped up closing arguments. Probably shit gonna be going on till at least midnight.
Yeah, I don't
milk
know.
the shit out of this. I'm sorry. If I'm the prosecutor, I am milking.
I have a feeling we'll have a verdict, or at least as the possible lack of one next week. My prediction, because of some of the information about where some of the jurors got their news, some of it was. Now I realize one of Trump's civil suit, one of the people that helped secure his liability was a Tim Pool viewer, but all the same, I don't have a lot of faith in humanity, even when the jury instructions are clear and the man is obviously guilty. I have a feeling there could be one holdout that brings this to mistrial. That's just
I wouldn't be shocked. Let's put it like this: any conclusion short of a meteor directly hitting the man himself,
yeah,
I would not shock me. And even then, the meteor would be like, well, I guess God overruled everyone.
I think
Thank God.
I think the meteor pities us and is thinking it's doing the correct thing. I mean, what's a little euthanasia for the human race?
Just a little, just a touch, as a treat. As a treat.
Things have been fucking dour recently, and it goes back to a function of, I understand, the Syrian civil war has been going on for over a decade at this point. There's not much we can do about that. The Sudanese civil war is getting worse and worse and worse. And there's not much we can do about that. But there is a certain amount of influence we can try to exert with what's going on in Gaza and Rafah, and
maybe even the Congo if we actually wanted to. It's a big maybe, though. Yeah. Big maybe. Big ass maybe.
I thought we were already had some sanctions in place. But
I don't know. It's possible. I just see it like this. They grown. Everyone involved is grown. I think y'all are grown enough for sanctions. If Russia is grown enough for sanctions, Israel is grown enough for sanctions. Y'all are grown. Y'all out the house.
We're far less likely. We're far less likely to sanction Western powers, and especially Western white powers, than we are, African nations and Middle Eastern nations that that aren't aligned with our interests.
We will sanction. We will sanction a rando country in Africa as it just give us a reason. It doesn't even have to be an actual reason. It can be a made up reason. They'll sanction a rando country in Africa. I will not be shocked if one day we just sanction Chad for no reason.
If they've had it too good for too long.
Unless they've already been sanctioned. Now I'm wondering if we've actually sanctioned Chad for anything.
There's a certain it was implied to be Lindsey Graham who said to the ICC chief when he issued his applications for warrants for arrest, not actual warrants, applications for warrants for arrest for Netanyahu. I always forget the war minister's name. It's but
Ben Gurion. I want to say Ben Gurion, but I won't swear it in court.
Ben Gurion was he was basically the architect of the Nakba and he was one of the first prime ministers of Israel, if not I can't remember who the order, but
I think they got it. I mean, they got an airport named after him.
And Ben Gvir is the president now, but he's also not one of the ones that
does he even count as a president?
He's not part of the war cabinet, so he's not.
Why is he here?
Man, I was really hoping that traffic accident was going to wipe him out, but unfortunately, it can't be a helicopter in Iran. It's just
we can't all get in helicopter. Yeah, helicopters for Iran aren't for everybody.
Probably made by Boeing.
That's it. The Iranian PM was about to blow the whistle on Boeing. That had to be it.
Can we tell Boeing that Netanyahu's a whistleblower?
Bitch, that actually might work.
Yeah, well, it's just like my idea that we tell the IDF that there are Hamas tunnels under Navient.
Honestly, at this point, if they're going to be all human rightsy violation-y, you might as well just take advantage of the situation. Now, I mean, if Joe Biden said that, I mean, I have a feeling some people would probably be reconsidering abstaining from the presidential election if he threw that on the table.
You know, I've gone
Or
over
is-
my head, and I listened to the Oleyemi school of how you align and
Mhm.
give your votes, and I would say that Oleyemi did an amazing video about theories of voting, and I'm not going to reiterate it. She made the points better than I ever could. About coalition building and how you're basically trying to elect the weakest opponent into the
Yeah.
position of highest power.
Yeah.
Because what you're doing is not endorsing a candidate. You're basically
No.
getting, at the time of that general election, it's been whittled down to the lowest common denominator in many respects. But I think the point being is that Biden makes it very, very hard to have that theory, because I want to not vote for him.
For me, I see it as it's a public transportation, not a marriage. One bus is going to take me to the middle of Death Valley and drop me off at the hottest part of the day. The other bus is going to take me to a open air mall that I may not have enough money to actually do anything with. But which bus am I taking? Fuck it. I'm going to take the bus to the open air mall, cuz at least I could hopefully buy myself some ice cream and sit in air conditioning till I can find something else.
It's the bus that's going to help repair the federal judiciary by replacing a lot of those seats with people who aren't complete psychopaths
Yeah.
and continue to erode what we have. But I mean,
Yeah,
it's
because I mean,
disgusting
I could wait for 1,000 years, and I probably still won't get my indigenous justice on the Supreme Court.
Speaking of indigenous justice, I am going to now. I haven't figured out the proper way to get a screenshot and put it on the screen, because I am extremely lazy. And you know, but I am going to bring up. So Joe Walsh was a representative from Illinois. He's famous for being the guy who broke decorum and mouthed the words "you lie" to Obama back when decorum was still this thing we pretended we had.
We ain't had it.
But anyway, he became even more famous for being a very vocal anti-Trump Republican, which leads some people to believe he's not a psychopath. But much like Liz Cheney, just being against Trump does not mean you're not a psychopath. And he stated,
You just don't support that psychopath.
yeah, it's kind of, the enemy of my enemy, still my fucking enemy, but he can be a useful enemy. To that extent, Liz Cheney was great to be on the panel investigating January 6th, but I wouldn't trust her in any other respect for any other reason. And I'm glad,
She is the daughter of Cthulhu. What are we looking for here?
because when you put it right down to it, her voting record would have been and was supporting every one of Trump's things and deals. She just happened to hate Trump. So she was a great mouthpiece, a great person to put up front and say.
I think she was a little waffly on same-sex marriage, and that was only because her sister's gay.
Empathy for conservatives extends its line of sight, basically. I realize I accidentally kind of halfway stole a line from the movie Interstellar there, but it was an accident.
But did you lie?
I did not lie.
Exactly.
So I'm going to read Joe Walsh, who again was a lawmaker who had legislative power. I'm going to read this tweet regarding Israel, Palestine. Here's what he wrote: "The whole two-state solution thing was bullshit from the start." Kind of agree, different reasons. All right.
Listen, I was naive.
2 states? I mean, come on. There are already 22 Arab states. 22. So, Joe, I'm going to.
That's just like saying.
I feel like you should know the difference between de facto and de jure.
Yes, and it's like saying there are 56 African nations. Just pick one.
Yeah, yeah. There, all those nations in Africa are black states. Not because they have it written into their law. They don't tell African Americans that they could come and just get automatic citizenship wherever you go in those states, Joe.
You
Very big
can.
distinction.
I think you can get. I think you can apply for right of return in Ghana, Liberia, and that's about it.
But don't you have to have some sort of ancestral, like backtrack? Like, so what?
What, you thought they kept records?
No, I don't think they kept records, but I think they're,
You
who
were
knows what I
hoping.
thought. Who knows what
You were hoping. Well, you were like maybe a 23andMe, and then it would just get weird because some people it would just get weird. Like I don't think we're ever gonna see Beyonce's 23andMe. It would get weird and ugly and hilarious.
This isn't the first naively stupid thing I've said. It will not be the last, but
It will not, but it was brilliant, and I love you for it because honestly,
I realized how stupid it was the second you started laughing. I was like, oh right,
yeah,
right.
yeah. It's like the time someone found out that Angela Davis was descended for somebody in Mayflower, and they're like, "Oh, she owes reparations to herself." I'm like, no. You go and tell a rape victim that she owes reparations to a rapist? Are we really doing this today?
Lineages go in multiple directions. Just
listen, some people do not. So if you meet a black person with green eyes, chances are that did not wind up on their face by consent.
Yeah. So to continue and move myself past that embarrassment,
that wasn't embarrassing. I've seen worse.
So this is Joe Walsh continued. You want peace in the region? Okay, here's how. Ooh, a solution. Many people have tried. Nobody succeeded. But I don't blame anybody for trying because I have theories. Everyone should have theories. Everyone should spit them out because theories is how we get to praxis. And then praxis is how we get to a solution.
But then some people really shouldn't be spitting out their theories, though.
Oh, but this one's great. This
so, is it though?
End this 76-year-old Gaza and West Bank charade. Good idea, Joe. End it now. Yeah, I agree. Immediately make Gaza and the West Bank part of the state of Israel once and for all.
Isn't it already, nigga?
That's actually part of a possible thing that people are talking about called this one state solution. So I think I see where you're going, Joe. Then the 22 existing Arab states should immediately absorb all the Palestinians currently living in Gaza and West Bank. Ooh, geez. Nope, Joe, you almost had me there. You almost had me.
That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life.
To absorb the Gazans of West Bank. Tell me, Joe, you live in Illinois still, I presume. You were an Illinois rep. I mean, maybe you moved elsewhere. I mean, for a while, I thought you were from Colorado. I don't know why, but you live in Illinois. So what if...
he's not chill enough to be from Colorado. Let's not do that.
What if that's where you live, what if the Ojibwe came to your house, kicked you out of it, left you alive, but kicked you out of it, and then destroyed your house, destroyed your land so that nothing could grow and that you can't come back if you wanted to? And what if you went to the courts? But the courts said, well, the Ojibwe were here first. They have an earlier claim, so we're going to let the Ojibwe keep your house. Now, the Ojibwe were removed from their land and take it from them. But you, Joe, didn't have anything to do with that. But all the same, you're out your house now. And someone took it. Someone who's a descendant of someone who's removed from the land took you, who didn't remove them from the land, from your house. Wouldn't you want your house back, Joe? Wouldn't
that part.
So, but maybe, let's say, 70 years down the road, your descendants want that house back.
Good luck.
Your response would be to just end this once and for all. The descendants of Joe Walsh, why can't France and Germany absorb them and all the other white countries take it. End this America farce once and for all. And let Joe Walsh's descendants of the world live in France and Germany. Joe. How the fuck about that?
I'm only laughing because while I work for a soulless conglomerate, I work for an indigenous-owned soulless conglomerate.
You know,
so it would basically be like if the if the indigenous tribe I worked for decided, oh no, Broward County's ours again. I mean, while that wouldn't change my occupation in all likelihood, I would probably end up possibly losing my house.
And, here's the thing people talk about, like, why should I have to pay reparations? It's taxes. The taxes would be the same. They just go different way. For something, I wasn't responsible for slavery. It's like, it's not about holding you responsible. It's about making some kind of equitable reparation for past harms that is the least harmful to people that have nothing to do with it in the first place.
That part. Which is why I believe that reparations should also take non-monetary things, such as you were arrested for you're black or you're indigenous and you were arrested for marijuana possession. No, you weren't. Amnesty, bitch. And we're expunging the record. We're restoring you to the voting rolls free of charge. If you are residing in a state where weed is legal, if you want to work in a dispensary, you can. If you want to assist in a dispensary, you can. You can participate in that part of the economy again. You can get your licensing and everything else again. Oh, you don't want to work in the weed industry, but you want to be a barber or something like that? Licensure set-asides. Honestly, can you not imagine? I'm thinking about braiders. I'm not just thinking about weed dispensary operators. I'm thinking about braiders. I'm thinking about nail people. I'm thinking about, if it's legal in your jurisdiction, sex workers.
I'm thinking that there's a lot of things, a lot of plans for reparations that under the current constitutional scheme would be found unconstitutional. So until there is a constitutional amendment to allow for reparations in a very targeted, specific way that does favor
and the thing is,
oppressed groups,
people have attempted it. The only time I've ever seen a venture capitalist get smacked down by the courts was when a venture capitalist fund was trying to support Black women.
God damn it. Of course. Why not?
Of course, yeah. I know. Venture capitalists, the one time those evil fucks act right. The one time them evil fucks act right.
But they're allowed to take Red Lobster from us, and we'll get to that. But
oh yes, I have thoughts and feelings about venture capitalists and private equity, and I'll be fine.
Yeah. And we'll get back to that. But I think, right now, until we necessarily amend the Constitution to allow reparations in a more specific and targeted form that does, in fact, favor people who have been historically discriminated against.
Yeah.
The scheme can include things that don't specifically target
have money.
Yeah, people of color, but things that would disproportionately help people of color, like as we go in the whole history of, redlining, blockbusting, and white flight from cities and stuff like that. Well, if you majorly invest in city infrastructure, I'm talking roads, schools, I'm talking
green spaces,
capping highways, shit like that. That has an indirect effect of giving reparations for the time being. In an indirect way,
and restoring some historical districts that have either fallen by neglect or were torn apart. Vanport.
Yeah. But part of that, I bring, I guess, the idea of reparations up to talk about, Joe Walsh's stupid fucking idea.
Joe Walsh can go to hell.
Basically, it's literally ethnic cleansing.
Yeah.
That is what it is.
I can understand as a white conservative that's an easy solution. That's an easy get.
It's just sort of like, well, they're all Arabs, so why don't they just go live with their people? Like,
That's
motherfucker,
not how any of this works.
hey, Joe Walsh, you're white, so why don't you go down and go into like moonshine country in Tennessee and see how well you get along there?
Because just like how we know that there are many different white people, there are many different black people. You can't take somebody who is you can't take a black American who's got 5-6 generations in this country and say, oh, you're black, and toss them in the middle of Jamaica. You can't do that. It's not going to make any sense.
There are people, pro-Palestinian people, anti-Zionist people who do think a solution is to remove Israelis from Israel, and I think that's psychotic, because I think any kind of forced migration is genocide, because forced migration destroys a people.
Because unfortunately, for better or for worse, they've been there for a generation. Yeah, they're there. They ain't going nowhere. They've been there for a generation and change. And
not only that, but the idea of a safe haven of a state for Jews is very understandable to me in a way that I would never accept with a whites-only ethno-state, because Jews
we've done this.
If not the most, definitely one of the most pogromed people in the history of history.
I mean, it's the fact that we still don't have a homeland for the Romani. The Kurds are working on theirs. They're trying. Lord knows.
It's a very understandable. I give endless goodwill and faith to someone who says that the Jews need a homeland to feel safe, because it's a very understandable fucking feeling, especially after the last 100 years or so.
I would say 125 years and change
has shown that, like, it's a very understandable desire, one that I do not hold for, like, people like Nick Fuentes who think we need a white sentence. Fuck you, Nick.
Nick Fuentes is a Spaniard who doesn't like the fact is a gay Spaniard who doesn't like the fact that he is either gay or a Spaniard. I said what I said.
But the problem is that ethno-states are very tricky. Even with
hella tricky.
Even with the best intentions, it is an ethno-state. And an ethno-state that is built on a land, and I'm not even, you know what? We can have the discussion about who was there first, and it's a discussion.
It's ugly and weird, and no one has a good time at the end.
The fact is that when Zionism as an idea was created, part of that discussion involved the transfer of people who were living there, and that transfer happened. If you want to have the conversation about how it happened, why it happened, it happened.
Yeah, so, and it was ugly.
Creating an ethno-state in a place where people already lived, I don't fucking care if the creation of the ethno-state is from a place where these people lived 3,000 years ago. There were people there now, and there had to have been a way to do it that doesn't involve up children's heads.
And just being absolute and burning down libraries and universities while proclaiming that you are the most humane.
The state of Israel is working on a propaganda project that wants the rest of the world to believe that it is necessary for the survival of the Jewish people that Israel exists, and that is putting Jewish people in danger. And
it's more the fact that the Israeli state is taking advantage of its of a position that it has been afforded to itself philosophically, and it's not really thinking about the people that have been rhetorically attached to it. They're not. This is coming down to Netanyahu's absolute need to stay in power. That's right now what Zionism is boiling down to. Netanyahu's need to stay in power.
It's sort of like the Republican Party being the party of freeing the slaves. That may have been what the party's ideological origins came from, but it's not what it is today.
Facts!
And the purity of the idea of Zionism, if you boil it down to just the idea for a homeland for a people who have been historically fucking slaughtered to a degree that is unimaginable,
Facts.
to the point where the last iteration of oppression against them was industrialized to a degree that is just you couldn't count to as a human being, like physically. You couldn't
Yeah.
count the number of
You
people.
couldn't count it without mechanical assistance.
I get that purest form of it, but that is not what it is, and that's not what it's become, and it's
Nope.
not what the state of Israel does or functions as. And
Nope.
so the solution, as far as what happens to those people, doesn't involve the ethnic cleansing of anybody. It doesn't involve what some people on the extreme left have said, removing Israelis from Israel, which no, fuck you. And it also doesn't involve what Joe Walsh is saying is removing the Palestinians from Palestine, which is no, fuck you. The idea is that
sorry, those people have been there since the Romans. We're not doing this.
There needs to be a solution that involves no mass migration, no forced mass migration. The only way around it, and people are going to end up not getting what they want all the time, is a form of reparations, rebuilding. There needs to be a Marshall Plan.
That part, yeah.
Builds.
Yeah, and the thing that always pisses me off about the fact that Israel likes to talk before this whole thing happened, Israel liked to talk about, oh, Gaza isn't an open air prison. Look at all these wonderful things that Gaza has. And I'm like, are those things for Gazans?
I'm sure
or
there's
are they
a community
for
garden in like the local prison near me. I'm sure they have a library. It's the restriction of movement that's the thing, and it doesn't,
yeah.
It'd be one thing if, like, yeah, I'm technically restricted in movement inside the United States, but the United States is a very large fucking country. But it's funny. Let me start over. It's a funny thing that people put this idea that you have to make up all this shit about Gaza and what it represents, and it's just you can have an honest conversation.
That oh my god, yes. What it is I'm annoyed and tired when people put all these impressions about Gaza that we should have left in high school. We should have left this shit in high school, guys. We should have left this shit at the Sunday school where we picked it up.
You want Hamas to have no power? You have everybody in Gaza immediately given full franchise, full rights. You give reparations, rebuilding. You give people the right to own property. You can even create, if it's, create what you want, but Hamas is going, when this war is over, Hamas will still be there because they've done nothing to get rid of Hamas. Hamas they've done and I wonder why.
Yeah, they've done nothing but, on one hand, they blow up a whole city block, but yet they have a surgical strike on a single apartment in a four-story building. Is this really what we doing?
Trigger warning for extremely graphic descriptions of what happens to a human body due to bombing, but I saw something today I never wanted to see and didn't plan on seeing, and didn't think that's what I was going to see when I was looking at videos playing of fires raging in Gaza, and the thumbnail was just unclear as to what I'm seeing. I thought I was seeing humans, but I saw when it started playing two figures. I could make out that the figure on the left was a man, and then it took like a fraction of a second before I realized that the figure on the right was a headless body of maybe about a 5-year-old or so child.
Yeah.
And that's something you don't unsee that.
You really don't unsee it at all. No.
I saw that today, and I know I will never unsee that. And here's the funny thing. Biden breathlessly got up and lied and said he saw pictures of 40 beheaded babies, which did not happen. And here's the kicker. What Hamas did on October 7th was an atrocity. It was horrifying.
Was it worth punishing the entire fucking Palestinian population of the country to do it?
The perfidiousness having to lie about atrocities, make them worse so that we would swallow the upcoming genocide. The idea that you needed to say there were 40 beheaded babies, or that a woman's breasts were cut off with box cutters and played like with soccer balls, or any of the other number of lies that were told. Oh yeah, that's another, just
that logistically.
That was one I've seen a couple people mention, including Rabbi Shmuley on Piers Morgan.
Listen, Rabbi.
But it wasn't just him saying it. So it's one of the ones that was out there. And people are still bringing this up. Mike Johnson brought up, I believe,
Mike Johnson brings up a lot of shit.
He is the apocalypse Yahtzee or apocalypse bingo variety.
Rapture Yahtzee.
Yahtzee Christian Zionist variety. So he likes to pretend it's because he cares very deeply for the Jewish people, but in reality he wants the Jewish people to be in the Holy Land so that God will come and then cast 2/3 of the Jews into hell and only take the ones that have converted to Christianity. So he's not a friend.
Yeah, it's the fact that no one wants to have the conversation that most Christian Zionists only like the concept of Jews. They don't actually like them.
But to go back, it's the actual lies about atrocities when the atrocities committed were enough, but they needed to manufacture it so they could make people more easily stomach the upcoming genocide that was going to occur. And the fact that there are people still repeating some of these lies, and I didn't hear one word from Jack Kirby or whatever the fuck his name is, the other guy, that Weasley little fuck, who's also one of the Pressbook people. I can't remember his name. Or Biden talk about that beheaded Palestinian child that we have photographic evidence of.
Yeah.
No, not one word about that. Not one word about his red line, which is really more of a pink or a mauve at this point.
It's a rose gold.
It's bullshit.
That too.
I don't want to spend too much more time talking about the subject, but the solution doesn't end with any more ethnic cleansing.
It really doesn't.
A variety of the extreme anti-Zionists who say that Israelis need to leave, which fuck you, or Joe Walsh who says that Palestinians need to leave, which fuck you. And I'm not trying to bring an equivalence, because the Zionists like Joe Walsh are the ones who have all the power. And
currently, they're the ones controlling the conversation.
I don't want to bring up an equivalence of power of those two ideas, but just to say that the solution does not involve forced migration. It does not involve ethnic cleansing. It involves
everyone growing the fuck up. It involves everyone growing the fuck up, accepting some goddamn sanctions, and figuring out how to fucking build back Gaza, and to actually start thinking about how they treat Gazans and Palestinians in the eyes of the law.
It involves
that's what it involves.
Israel like we treated South Africa, and making it untenable for their current scheme to exist. Because it's not going to be done by force. It's going to be done by economic power. And that's it. That's what ended apartheid. It wasn't, we're going to invade you. None of this shit.
It wasn't
because a new leader came along and said, I changed my mind.
It was, we won't play Sun City. It was destroying South African wines. It was destroying South African oranges and letting them rot in the ports. So right now it's going to be about giving up hummus. It's going to be about not listening to Netta. It's going to be about, it's going to be about a lot of these very soft things. Yeah. It's going to be about giving to GoFundMes. It's going to be soft. I know a lot of people don't like hearing that shit, but that's what it is.
We needed to stop giving them weapons and money a long time ago, and the sanctions.
That part. They are grown. They are grown. This is a grown ass country. They are grown. Start treating them like it. Yeah. I feel so much more. Let's put it like this. If they redirected at least a half of this money to Ukraine, I'd feel better.
I'd already feel better about Ukraine, and we talked about it before. My belief in arming Ukraine comes from the promises we made for them to denuclearize, which I think is a very important goal. And I think that
I'm
if
sorry.
we hadn't made that, we'd be like, we'll give you some food aid, Iran, but
I'm sorry. Give that sawed-off comedian his goddamn weapons. I said
he sure could play a fine piano, though.
I said what I said.
So
give that sawed-off comedian his damn weapons.
Let's talk a little Red Lobster, because you mentioned venture capitalists earlier, and I had said in the group chat that I wanted to talk about this, but you seem far more enthusiastic than me.
For me, it's more the fact that
discussion?
Honestly, I feel like venture capitalism is. This is going to sound hilarious, but I think it's anti-Black. There, I said it. Is it because of what they did to Red Lobster? Yeah. Is it because of what they did to small Black newspapers throughout the country with the fact that they've killed local journalism? Yes. Miami used to have 3 newspapers. The Miami Herald, the Miami Times, and I think the Miami Sun-Times or the Florida Sun-Times. Guess which one is the only one still left? Yeah. The Miami Herald. It's partially because, yes, people from Miami don't read.
Is the Miami Herald partially owned by USA Today?
I believe so. Yes, it is.
Because my local paper, I think, is owned by USA Today.
Yes, it is. I mean, do I enjoy the fact that more people can read Dave Barry? Sure. But not at the cost of my smaller newspapers and my smaller dirt rags getting fucked over. I mean,
it doesn't have the telltale USA Today kind of style, so maybe
that's because luckily that's the only up and downside of being a large enough paper on her own. That all we just needed was still being a sexy enough paper that people want to work there.
Okay, they're owned by McClatchy, who fucking they're Jesus.
Yeah, they own a lot, and McClatchy owns a lot of shit, and it's kind of frustrating. Like I said, they're lucky because they're still a sexy enough paper that people still want to work for them, and so as a result, we still get decent journalists. We still have an okay. Let's put it like this: the Miami Herald isn't great. It's okay. But in a world of abysmal journalism, okay, cuts it. I think that's probably the best way I can explain why the Miami Herald has survived. And so probably a lot of
my local paper, but they own the Miami Herald and El Nuevo Herald.
Yeah, fuck El Nuevo Herald, though. I'm sorry. This is going to sound bad, but Spanish language media is a cesspool. And the thing is, unfortunately, Republicans figured it out first.
There is a significant amount of Telemundo support for Trump.
Like I said, the Republicans figured it out first. And it's a case of...
This is why I don't get why Republicans don't want Puerto Rico to be a state. Puerto Rico would be a red state.
I think it's the fact that Puerto Rico, despite being a red, the older Puerto Ricans who do love to vote and make a social event of it, like a lot of BIPOC elders, they do make a social event of it. They vote red. The younger ones, it would be split. They wouldn't be able to guarantee the next generation. You log on Grindr in Miami, there's enough Hispanic dudes saying, se habla español or solamente español, that, you can't guarantee that they all are sucking the cock of white adjacency. You can't guarantee that.
Puerto Rico, speaking of venture capitalists offloading all their debt onto things, as they do to Puerto Rico. I mean, and destroy.
It's a hot mess.
What I mean, the idea of leverage buyouts in the first place should be fucking illegal. And
I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to play the dumb person here. Explain to the internet what a leverage buyout is.
Well, they basically say they're going to buy Red Lobster using the debt they are going to. They are going to buy Red Lobster by promising the sale of assets from Red Lobster to pay for the sale of the thing they don't have yet. They're going to purchase Red Lobster with the promise.
Okay, now I understand why that shit should be illegal.
Red Lobster's assets from creating debt within Red Lobster and using that debt to pay to buy it.
That is some intra-white community
shit. It's made the fuck up. It's some
intra-white. That is some intra-white community shit. I need white people to get together with themselves and talk amongst themselves as to why they allow this shit.
Yeah, this is why Toys R Us was gone. Remember what they took from us.
Oh, I hella remember what they took from us. They also took decent hospitals. I'm sorry, I went right for the jugular. Like, private equity has destroyed the small community hospital.
Things that shouldn't have a profit motive. Hospitals. And water and just things that keep you alive should not have a profit motive.
Yeah, right now I'm thinking about the fact that...
Call me a communist.
I'm thinking about the fact that I've thought about having a seasonal OnlyFans to pay for air conditioning during the summer.
Speaking of the 1% fucking over everybody else, you'd have to be one of the top earners in OnlyFans to see a fucking dime.
That part. And the thing is, in South Florida, I know top earners in OnlyFans. And them bitches got second jobs. Like, listen, you can be a top earner in OnlyFans, have a job at Alorica, be doing some sex work on the side, and still... when you open the email for your bill from FPL, you can still say, like, coño, what the fuck?
It's just like when people say, like, I should just go on OnlyFans and post pictures of my feet. How hard is it? Do it then. Fucking do it.
It's really, I mean, listen, you can go to, like, and many of them are like, oh, I wouldn't go to Exotic. I'm like, bitch, you should go. If you're going to be in the sex trade, you should go. Listen, it's the only way you're going. Listen, it's the only time you can ask to borrow that you can lend a vape to Stormy Daniels and end up in conversation and actually learn something.
Sex work, like all work, should be not only legalized, but should be unionized.
Like I said, like, how many times have we said cops and football play? I mean, how many times have I said football players and prostitutes are workers? Cops are not. Finance bros and call center people.
And prostitutes won't kill your dog. Well, maybe Michael Vick, but football players and prostitutes won't kill your dog or paralyze you because they got to the wrong house.
And they won't, and chances are the sex worker might actually have some vague experience on dealing with people in mental health crises. You actually might get a sex worker who's like, no, I took a class at Miami-Dade. I got this. I'm not lying. You know I'm not lying. You know, in Miami, there is at least 3 sex workers right now who are like, no. I took some classes at Miami-Dade and U of M. I got this. I can do this.
One of the main reasons I want to win the lottery and become a multi-hundred millionaire is just so if I'm ever pulled over by the cops, I can say, if you're here, who's beating your wife, and not have to worry that, like, I'm going to be in too bad a shape.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you're white, so you probably will not die. You probably will not die.
Probably some dislocations.
They probably will dislocate your arm, and you're probably going to end up with you're probably going to end up with some shattered arm or leg bones, but chances are you won't die. Yeah. And I will literally sit and be a character witness and be like, they're absolutely the most wonderful person I've ever met in my life. Seriously.
Back at you, D.
Like I said, and you know I would do it with just the driest face ever. But yeah, no, like honestly, being able to say who's at home beating your wife to a cop is something every human being should be. Every human being, yes, cops are horrible around the world, guys. We all know this. Should be allowed to say.
Cops and venture capitalists and kickers aren't people.
They really not. Especially since another kicker got caught. Another kicker got sexually assaulted a flight attendant. I need the NFL to start regulating their kickers.
Look, at least Plaxico Burress only shot himself.
That's all about it. Listen, I ain't even mad. Yeah, you're right. Plaxico Burress only shot himself. Junior said, "Oh God." You know what I was about to say, and I almost said it, and I didn't want to say it.
So,
but yeah, Junior Seau only shot himself. So, really, what are we doing here? I'm so sorry.
It's just to say.
I am sorry to the Chargers family. Hell, I'm even sorry to Junior's family, honestly, because honestly, that was bullshit. While it was true, it wasn't. It was bullshit. That was bad.
So,
of all the things I've said, that is the first thing that I've ever said on the air that I feel truly bad for saying.
I really wish Eric were here to have this discussion because I believe the Negro League stats are about to be folded into the MLB. I
don't know if I want that. Part of me don't want that. There's a part of me that's like, do we really want to lose that? It's not that I'm pro segregation. I am against what I'm against is the minimization of the separation of the de jure and de facto separation and the damage that it wreaked on the culture. That is why I do not want it. I don't want these statistics folded in because you lose the impact of what de jure and de facto segregation did to the culture. What the fact that if you go on Twitter and you bring up Babe Ruth just might be black, you will get an avalanche of black people going, we've had this conversation. We came away believing that he just might be. And white people blocking you. Oh no, we've done this. Oh no, the Babe Ruth is black or Babe Ruth is black and Dominican conversation has come up.
What is the argument against it? Like, if it's the fact that he appears white, I got news about Homer Plessy. Like,
I'll tell you the arguments for it. They're mostly visual. It's a user by the name of at Twitter. And yes, I'm still calling it a Twitter user by the name of Slang Dini came up with visual proof, and the fact that at one point he was called N-word lips. Ty Cobb's notorious hatred of him.
Steven Tyler was called that though.
Yeah, but Ty Cobb constantly. The fact that they did not want to make him, I think, the manager of the Dodgers because he was raring to integrate them. Branch Rickey wasn't emotionally ready for that. It was the idea that, he was bringing all the things, his friendship with Bumpy Johnson. It wasn't just friendship. Like, this is a man, like Babe Ruth rolled up into black clubs, had black side pieces, openly, gave money to black orphanages, gave money to black churches, was seen in black churches.
Kind of buried the lead on that.
On what?
Because those were the most compelling pieces of evidence to me.
What?
The speaking with your money aspect of it.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Babe Ruth's money spoke very loudly in parts of Black New York.
I can I guess I could see it. It's a lot of circumstantial, but
it's a very circumstantial evidence. But think about the fact that for many years, people didn't believe that Johnny Cash's wife was black. His first wife.
Oh, not okay. So not June.
Not June.
Okay, because for a second I was like, wait, what?
June, his first wife. If you've ever seen Vivian Cash, yeah, you gonna be like,
I don't know dick about Johnny Cash. I didn't even know he had a wife before June.
Oh yeah, Vivian.
I didn't see the movie. I didn't, you know.
They didn't cast that woman right.
I don't even listen to Johnny Cash. Like I just don't. I'm not.
For me, here's the thing with Johnny Cash. He is what, as a Jamaican, he is an auxiliary cultural icon. Meaning, an auxiliary cultural icon. He had a house in Jamaica. We, of course, fucked that up for him, and we're really sorry about that. My father, remember, this is a small island. My father remembers seeing him in his red pickup truck. He wasn't dressed in black. He was dressed in blue jeans, going to pick up shit at the local store. He moved in the population till we fucked that up, and we're really sorry about that.
This is a story I need to hear more of at a certain point.
But yeah, listen, Johnny Cash lived in Jamaica for quite some years, and that's something that, that's why he's considered by many an auxiliary cultural icon. He's not a main. He's kind of like the side dish.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I know. It's a tiny island, bruh.
It'll be a lot bigger when you kick out the landlords.
Who are you talking? Like I said, Andrew Holness is talking about some 2025. I believe that shit when I see it.
That's really soon.
Exactly. I believe that. That's why I will believe that shit when I see it. I will probably be drunk out my mind. But honestly, that could be fun.
I mean, I would like it to happen in Charles's lifetime because I
would too.
And
I do think that it would probably lead to a domino effect. I could very well see that, Jamaica leaves Barbados is, I believe, already left. And Jamaica leaving could probably lead to other countries leaving. Guyana been talking about it. It won't. Let's put it like this. I don't think it will be real to the British populace until a country like Canada or Australia leaves the Commonwealth.
I feel like Australia would definitely precede Canada in leaving.
Or New Zealand even. Aotearoa. If Aotearoa leaves, that would probably make an impression. They're already kind of making that kind of visual effort at leaving by allowing that Aotearoa is like an official name for the place, going back to its name, Maori name, its indigenous names. That's big. The fact, people did not notice, and they should have noticed when India started dropping. New Delhi became Delhi. Bombay became Mumbai again. When a lot of these places started dropping and going back to their pre-colonial names, like I said, it's not exactly making London Plonaida again, but it's close. Oh yeah, Plonaida is London's indigenous name. No one wants to have that conversation.
I just like it because it sounds like Flo Rida, and I'd love to see the indigenous British Londoner with the name. Look,
you'd like to see an Afro-Brit call himself Plonaida.
Yes.
And occasionally have an album title in Latin.
Is it too much to ask?
Actually, I could see that happening, and it would be fucking... I could see that happening on an experimental basis, and it would be fucking hilarious.
Now, speaking of things that make us laugh, before we go, we will talk about Donald Trump addressing the Libertarian Party.
He thought because they both liked underage girls, they'd agree.
Well, the deal is they just in principle like all underage girls, and he just likes the one that got away. Look, just
well, you know what? I shouldn't say shit. I made a Junior Seau joke, bro. I shouldn't say shit. Honestly, I did that.
I mean, look, I love the idea that Trump thinks that there was anything to be gained by addressing the Libertarian Party. I love it more that they booed him relentlessly.
That was brilliant. To me, it's the fact that it is the fact that watching him be, and he's trying to hide the narcissistic injury, but we all can see it.
At the same time, though, what I liked the most was that he was really good at roasting them. And I know it came from the fact that his feelings were hurt, but all the same, God, when he pulled that, or don't, and just get 3% every 4 years. Damn!
I'm like, oh, I'm like, if I was still a libertarian, I would be mad. But I'm not. Oh, well.
Look, I voted for Gary Johnston in 2012, so.
I mean, listen, a lot of ex-Republicans have there was a time when I voted libertarian phrase.
That was it for me. Like,
we all have I voted for rando libertarian because reasons, and I just couldn't do it.
I can't vote for Obama because he's a socialist, obviously, but, it just gives you an idea of how far.
Yeah, Sirius. Oh, yeah. No, Sirius is making a really important point here.
Get out of the trash. I have to pick up more trash later. Get out of the trash, Sasha. Unbelievable. She's very special. She is special.
Is
but
she though?
Special. I've seen her run into a door jam more than once. She doesn't know she's got her.
In the same incident, or just different times?
Different times. Different times.
Okay.
She's fallen off the bed. She's run into the door jam.
Then she just has a general disregard for her own person.
She's our happy little moron. That's what we call it.
So she's basically like that girl from Waiting for God who was in love with this other guy, and they were not the smartest one. There was some inbreeding there.
She's the sweetest, happiest creature in the universe. She's just not bright.
Yeah.
Speaking of libertarians,
she picked her struggle, and her struggle was, I'm gonna be dumb, but I'm gonna be nice though.
Yeah. After all she went through, she never lost her kindness.
Oh.
It's
unlike libertarians.
Yeah. But I really love that he kind of made a subtle age of consent jibe or sexual assault jibe at them when he said that he got rid of those new college campus rules. I did that for you, or something, whatever it was. I was just like, damn, he is reading them.
Wow.
Like, I know he's a rapist, but he is still reading them.
In other words, he read them harder. In other words, he read them so hard you almost thought George Santos was on his camp was paid to be part of this.
I like, whoever told him it was a good idea for him to follow through on this is stupid, but it also lends an air of desperation. Like, why would you do this? They didn't do it in 2015.
That means the internal polling is very, very, very bad. The internal polling
for everybody is bad, and I think people want to be able. If Biden loses, people are going to blame the left for not voting for him over Gaza. Mm-hmm. But I have to remind people, his polling was dog shit before
Gaza.
So, like, this is not.
So, I mean, in other words, but if Donald Trump loses, it's going to be just kind of like, okay, well, what were we expecting on that one? If Donald Trump loses
and Biden's president again, he will continue to be a disastrous president in many ways, and he will continue to be horrible in so many issues. But in certain issues, he will propel us forward and allow us to take back control of institutional power that has been stripped away.
Yeah, because that's his hobby horse. He lives that institutional shit. That makes him moist.
his appointments to different agencies, his union friendliness, the fact that he has the fact that the Fed is going after breaking up Live Nation, which we should talk about maybe next week.
Yeah, because honestly,
is
that's
significant, and that's a huge reversal from Obama.
Yeah, I'm going to try to get rid of the little fees that annoy you. You know, I mean, that's not a lifesaver, but it's appreciated. It's not a lifesaver, but it's appreciated.
Biden's assertion of administrative power has been sort of a wonder to behold, and I appreciate those things. I appreciate the pro-union appointments and the fact that now, granted, the Mercedes unionization failed, but all the same, that's like the first big failure of a long string of successes.
So like I said, there's a lot of little annoyances and little things that he's going to probably have a hand in getting rid of. I mean, is that going to be enough to save him? But if we end up with 4 more years of getting rid of little annoyances, will I be mad about it? Fuck no. Fuck no.
Statistically speaking, a Supreme Court appointment might be made by the first black female president if Biden gets reelected. Statistically speaking, I'm not saying it doesn't happen,
but it's something that we do have
great healthcare. So
yeah, I mean, it would not be if you included it on your bingo card, it wouldn't be seen as reckless.
If he just falls off one more bike, that could be it. I'm just saying. And with that, I think we should probably end it. But this breaking news, this just in: David Zaslav somehow still alive.
If he just looked the other way and let something happen to David Zaslav,